Hi, my name's George Bassing, and I'm here for the Flow of Life community with the amazing Steve Chandler, a prolific writer, if I may say so, of, I couldn't believe it actually when I went through Amazon, the amount of books you've written.
Yes,
And an awful lot. And of course, how did it start?
well, I began writing books almost by accident. I was 49 years old. I really never thought I would ever write a book. I had been a songwriter and I had been in journalism, so I loved to write.
Mm.
And it was right about that time that I began to learn about coaching and spirituality, self-improvement, three principles, all of that. And all of a sudden I just started, for the courses I was teaching, I'd started writing guidebooks. And then that first group of guidebooks turned into a book. And then one just came after the other. They were never really planned.
Often isn't that the way?
Yes.
I mean, I know I saw, in fact, it'd been interesting because I read the Ultimate Coach book, obviously about Steve Hardison. And of course, it was interesting because you're in there and part of your journey with him.
Yes, he was a major factor in my turning my life around and getting into the work I do now. It was my work with him that really made a huge difference.
Because from what I read in the book, and I've read your book Creator, which I think I said to you when I spoke to you on Messenger, the fact that there was one particular part of it where it said we are created by Creator to create.
Right. There's a saying in mystical Christianity, and I'm sure it's elsewhere, that we were created in the image of our Creator. We were designed that way. And so if we were created in the image of our Creator, then we were created to create. That's why we're here. And we all create. We create plans, we create how the room looks. People are creating all the time. They just don't think of it that way. And most people that I've coached and worked with, they have creativity in their minds as if it's a real specialized gift or talent that only certain people have. So somebody might say, my sister is creative, she paints. Or I had a parent who was creative, she wrote poetry, or somebody was an architect. But it's a very specialized subject in our society. And most people think I'm not creative. Now, it's not true when they're children, because when I'm with children and I hand out pads to paint on, they don't stop and say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not much of an artist. They're all just painting right away. So we have that yearning to create, and that we're born with that internal self-confidence. I can create. My little grandson comes up when I'm playing the piano. He comes up and plays the piano. Well, I can do this. And when his mother is cooking, he pulls up a chair and let me stir this, and I can make a soup. So there's no sense of I'm not creative, I'm not a good artist, I can't sing, I can't create a business of my own. We get talked into all these limitations, and especially around creativity.
And that's so true because we tend to go, it looks like the arts are the creative domain as opposed to digging a garden.
exactly.
Putting a picture on a wall.
Making dinner, creating a new way to season something or present something, or creating a way to talk to somebody. We're creating without knowing it.
Mm.
And everybody is very creative except for their thinking. Their thinking is the only thing that gets in the way of their creativity. Thoughts are not creative.
But of course, even that's interesting, because on the basis I'm not creating my thoughts, but my thoughts are hugely creative, then that's source playing there too.
Yes, exactly. And when people wake up to that, what really helped me, you mentioned the Steve Hardison book.
Mm.
What really helped me in my sessions with him, coaching, I would bring a problem, what I thought was a problem. And he would listen to my story about what a problem this was, and he would treat it not like a problem, but like a situation. Mm. And he would say, okay, given this situation that you've just described, what would you like to create? And I would be confused. And I would say, what do you mean? I have a problem I want to solve. And he said, well, that's giving all power to the problem. That's denying your innate capacity for creating something that would make the problem a non-issue. So I said, well, I have these debts and I'm in debt. I'm a single father I had full custody of 4 children. And so he would say, okay, so given that you have these debts, what would you like to create? Well, I'd like to create a way to have, number one, to have them not bother me so much, because that's all I think about. And number 2, to have them paid off. And he said, great, so let's create a project that would do that. So this is a creative brainstorm we're in. This is not a problem-solving session. Mm-hmm. And he did those over and over again. So pretty soon, my approach to life no longer saw problems. They saw situations that were calling for creativity. They were calling for me creating something.
Interesting. And of course, that makes total sense.
Yes.
I know when I was listening to a lady talk the other day, and she was talking about our solution becomes our problem. Because instead of looking, as you say, I'm short of money, that's really clean and clear. But around it, of course, our imaginings build lack of worth, lack of ability. Can I do this? Aunt Fanny may say that's a wrong idea. All of that actually comes up around it. So the solution becomes the problem, because it's not actually about the clarity in the middle. We're looking for a solution to all of that created story around it.
Right. That's true. We don't have to do that.
No. And that was just sort of really clear from the point of view, yes, the problem doesn't exist as you think it does.
That's right. It doesn't have to be thought of that way. It can be thought of as a newly arising situation. And what would I like to create given this situation, including creating absolute relaxation around it, absolute lack of fear, and it's going to be a project rather than a problem. And language means a lot. How we agree to describe the context we're going to put the situation in, and it can free up a lot of relaxed energy to create the things that have what looked like a problem coming from the outside now becomes a project coming from the inside out. and it can be a lot of fun.
What I find, what's been on my mind recently, so I know you know Jules Swales.
Yes, yes.
And I've been writing with Jules for a year now. I think she's wonderful. And in fact, it was interesting because the other day, Ria Ilfey, I always pronounce her name wrong, Ilfey Woods, always pronounce it wrong. But either way, Ria, she posted a picture of you, I believe it was 5 years ago, with Dick and Bettinger.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was really interesting seeing all this connection come up, and especially around the time I was due to see you. And I know this creative force of writing always just wants to play, actually.
Yes.
Just sitting there waiting for us to turn up, to pick a pen and want to play in that space. And yet, what's interesting, having done Supercoach, and this bit, if I say is about me, so I'm really fascinating to hear your, I battled as a coach, but whilst I was battling as a coach, looking this way, a book got written that I didn't even see was writing itself. So do you, in your experience, believe that everything is available? And I know everything is available, but that everything turns up if we look at it, if we look that way.
Yes. If we're willing to relax and drop out of self-referential thinking. I'm not a good writer. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to be a coach. I don't know how to get clients. All of this self, I, me, mine thinking, and fall away from that and allow myself to see it from a different perspective. How can I help this person? How could I coach this person in such a way they might be assisted? I might make a difference with them. They might have, and then just explore and not be thinking about myself so much, but thinking about what do I want to communicate, especially in writing, for example, even writing an email. What would I like this email to communicate? Yeah. And if I would write it from the heart instead of from the intellect, from self-editing, self-judgment, critical thinking, the flow starts to happen and the words begin to flow. And everyone can do that if they're interested in practicing that.
Because, of course, there's a lot of talk out there of, the law of attraction or manifestation. And I guess that's really all you're talking about.
It might be another way of saying it, yes.
But, of course, what's interesting is there's a very trendy, and I only know about this because I was with my 30-year-old daughter today, because I don't watch TikTok. But there's a whole trend going on at the moment of I'm a lucky girl. So you keep repeating to yourself every day, I'm a lucky girl, I'm a lucky girl, I'm a lucky girl. And this has kind of really caught fire with her age and younger and has become a TikTok trend at the moment. And it's all about, I guess, reprogramming beliefs. So it would be, who was the lady that did positive affirmations? Whose name totally, Louise Hay.
Yes.
And Sid would talk about look for a good feeling. Do you see a difference in that as opposed to having to say a positive affirmation every day?
Well, I'm for anything that works.
Mm-hmm.
I'm for anything that frees people from their own self-imposed limitations.
Mm-hmm.
So if affirmations work, if they shift your viewpoint enough so you're not stuck with your story. So most people have a story, and I did for decades. I'm not lucky. I'm unfortunate. I've had things happen, and I have not been given the proper parenting that other people received. And I'm at a disadvantage because of that. And I was never taught this. I don't know how to do that. If I could use affirmations as a way to open the mind. Mm-hmm. So if I'm saying I'm a lucky boy, I'm a lucky man, I want to make sure it's not only an affirmation, but I want to see the truth in that. Mm-hmm. I want to allow myself to have it be true and explore, where am I lucky? Mm-hmm. So I see people in the Ukraine and their home has just been bombed. And I think, well, compared to those people, I'm very lucky, very fortunate. And so I'm looking for the truth of my affirmation. So it drops as an insight. And it's not just something on the surface I'm trying to talk myself into. Because if I can't match it up with reality, the affirmation's not going to really drop in the way that Sid Banks and George Pransky and Elsie Spittle and all the great 3P teachers, the way they talk about receiving an insight. Oh, I am lucky. Oh, I'm grateful for this. I'm grateful for that. And that's an insight. I really am lucky. An affirmation is suggesting to me that, why don't you look here and see where you're lucky? Because simply reprogramming or reframing, I found it in my life that didn't last for very long.
Yeah.
But an insight is something you last forever. You can't unsee it. And that's where the real change occurs. That's one of the great things about 3 principles teaching and philosophy and psychology is that they focus on true insights that you receive, however you receive them, not trying to talk yourself into something that deep down you don't perceive to be reality.
Mm. And I think what's so interesting, I heard Elsie Spittle talk about the fact that we receive the recognition of an insight. Sometimes, I've had insights where it's been a really heard experience. And then other ones that have just been a felt, an acknowledgement of something. But there is, whichever way it is, you've seen truth.
Yes.
So yes, if you're saying I'm really lucky, but you're hobbling down the road with one leg and you actually can't see that luckiness, that it would never be able to be reprogrammed. Reprogramming, I don't know, is a thing, but you would not be able to find that actually that is truth.
That's right. True.
So simple, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so simple. The great teachings, spiritual teachings, of which Sid Banks was a master figure in spiritual thought, psychology as well, are very simple insights, very simple philosophy. But because it's so simple, even the simplicity of the Sid Banks story where somebody said to him, said, "You're not depressed, you just think you are." And that was so simple, it woke him up to, oh my gosh, it is a thought I'm believing, but that's all it is. And so he got a huge insight into the role of thought. And a lot of other people like Byron Katie.
Yeah, in fact, you mentioned her. I was reading
Yes.
today.
Yes. She's
Jules
wonderful.
mentioned her the other day as well, actually about in writing the fact that Jules sent an email out today saying about get to your point, stop using so many words, stop getting caught up in whatever. And that she had done an exercise of Byron Katie's when she did a workshop. And she said, write about your situation, write and write and write and write, and pare it down and pare it down and pare it down. And she said, I got to the point where I had one line left.
Yeah.
Which was fascinating because it stripped everything else around it out and gave her the space to actually see that is all this situation is.
Yes. And by writing it down, we are no longer Velcroed to our thoughts. We have distance now. They're on paper. We can see them from a distance. We see these thoughts of ours written down, and we can look at them objectively. Are they really true? Is it really true that my wife, who, while in a low mood, said something that I interpreted as unfair or unkind, and then my thoughts started multiplying? Oh, she doesn't appreciate me. She doesn't appreciate all I do and how much I care for her, and this marriage is not going to work. And all of a sudden, all these thoughts start arising. Now, most people, almost every client I've ever worked with, and my family and myself especially, just automatically believe a thought when it appears. She doesn't appreciate me. Now if I automatically Velcro to and assume the truth of every thought that arises, then I'm going to feel the feeling that thought produces. She doesn't appreciate me. I feel discouraged. I feel let down. I feel hopeless. And those thoughts produce those feelings. If I learn to see thought as thought, it's merely a thought. And in a low mood, there are negative, catastrophic thoughts. And in a great mood, there are more positive, realistic thoughts. And so when I have a low mood thought, if I can see it, oh, that's just a passing thought. Of course, she appreciates me. She's in a bad mood. She voiced her bad mood in criticism of the nearest person around, and it was me. I'm not the target. She's just trying to voice a feeling. And so I'm not offended. I feel for her as if she were coughing or sneezing. Oh my gosh, you're not feeling well. And I've got compassion for that. I don't have resistance. I'm not defending myself. It's not about me. And that gives people a new freedom that they can create from, because these thoughts no longer mean much. And that gives you space and freedom.
And yet it's so easy, as I know when I came into kind of this understanding, is the fact to go, my ego is terrible. Don't listen to it. It's dire. But there is a purpose for it, because, of course, it makes our flavor.
Yes.
So
it allows us to play the game. Like George Pransky talks about the game of life. On the vertical line, spiritual line that ascends, that is living life. But on the horizontal line, out there in the world, that's the game of life where we interact with other people. So we have to assume a role and a name and a personality. And that's how we play the game of life and interact with others. So it's not wrong or bad as long as we don't take it seriously.
I'm not sure I understand. Sorry. Apple Watch, wonderful technology talking to me. And if we didn't have, of course, this illusion of separation, again, that has a purpose.
That's right. Yeah, it's not wrong or bad, but it is an illusion that can cause us all kinds of unnecessary fear. So if I have the illusion that I'm separate, isolated, I'm only my ego. Most people don't even talk about ego. That's just who they are, is their ego. And if I'm only that, then I'm going to be seeing threats everywhere. But if I can relax into the insight, Sid God, and the spaciousness that is our birthright, then I say I'm not separate. I'm one with everything. And life is not a series of problems to solve.
Did you come into this understanding? You started writing before this understanding.
Yes, I did.
And how did it change how you wrote what you saw?
Oh, it changed it a lot because my first writing was more about the game of life, self-improvement, building up the ego so it's a better ego, stronger, more achieving more, creating the illusion of safety through money and things like that. And I would write about, oh, here's a better way to do that. Here's a better way to achieve your goals and to be motivated and all of that. And I was excited by that because when I came out of my really miserable years, truly miserable, when I went through alcohol addiction and things like that, when I came out of that, I realized I can create the life I want, and I can have a good job and raise my children properly and all of that. I didn't realize I could. And so I wrote books about, yes, and here's how you do that. And here's how to do it more successfully and more effectively. And that was my focus. And then when I came upon this understanding, I began to see, no, it's even better than that, because that's not going to get me happiness and peace. That's going to get me material things, which is fine, but it's not going to change this ongoing worry and fear, anxiety, and never trusting myself or anyone else. That doesn't go away. As you can see, the behavior of many people who have millions of dollars, it is not more peaceful. It's often more chaotic. And you read about famous actors who have millions who are now in their 5th treatment center and trying to break their addictions, and they're on their 6th marriage, and it's just crazy attempt to find inner peace in the outside world. It doesn't live out there. So this understanding had me write more about that over time. So if you look, my most current books are more about that. Although sometimes I'll write a business book that's just about business. Here's how to do a better business. But underneath, there's more of this understanding.
And it's so true. If I say, I mean, I have some very rich friends, and their fear. It's interesting what comes to mind. They spend their whole time worried about the fact they're going to lose money.
Yeah.
Or they're in competition with the next man or woman. If I say a woman who's going to arrive in the same frock, or whatever it may be, and they're worried that people like them for their money, as opposed to coming back to the first point about money. If you can make it once, what would be the reason that you couldn't make it again?
True. Yes, we are far more resourceful than we realize.
Yeah.
But if we're only looking outside at situations and getting nervous about them, there's no connection to the inner resourcefulness, the inner creativity that's just waiting to express and to make life better.
So when I have something that wants to come into the world, it can feel like push, push, push. Are you listening? Push, push, push. Are you listening yet? Oh, yeah, okay, I've heard it this time. And there is a not knowing what's going to appear. And being really cool with that. I love that not knowing, even not knowing what word is coming next. When you sit down to write a book, do you know where it's going when you start or not? Does it?
No, I don't. No, I have a general idea of where I would like it to go as far as what people might receive, the kind of inspiration how the book might be useful to people. I have an idea. So like I wrote a book called Right Now, and I had just done a lot of work with Dickon. He was mentoring me.
He's beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful man. And he really helped me see the power of being present in the present moment, being fully present, to appreciate the now, the present moment. Right now this is life right now. We're experiencing all of life. Everything that was ever created was created in the now, wasn't created in the future. And so I really had this, I would love to write about now, but I would also like to write about the antidote to procrastination. That idea of, is this something I can do right now, or do I keep putting it off because I'm afraid I won't do it well? And could I possibly write about both views of right now at the same time in the same book? So that's all I had was, I'd like to try that. I don't know where it's going to go. So chapter 1, I write this, and chapter 2. So I just wake up and write. And then I have enough words, and I have enough. I think this is a book. I think I've done my best to make this uh, attempt communicate. So now it goes out to the world, and I let it go. So that's the most I ever really think about the content of the book. I think about the purpose or the intention, my hope for the book, but I don't think here's the content I'm going to write. I let that occur to me during the writing process, like you say. Now, what you described is very unusual in our society of loving being in a space of divine unknowing, the divine unknown. And Byron Katie calls it the I don't know mind, because most people are the opposite. They want to know. They want to look like they know. They want to know how to do something. They want to get it right, not get it wrong. And so knowing is all important to them. And there's a wonderful person I'm writing a book about right now named Tom Chi. And he has a YouTube video called Knowing is the Enemy of Learning.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
every time I think I know, if I know how to coach or I know how to give a talk or how to write a book, then my ability to learn and grow and develop is shut down. I know this, I've got this, I already know it. And that happens with a lot of leaders in organizations. They think they have to look like they know what to do. And so they're not open to collaboration, insight from people on their team. And they make a big show of, okay, I know what to do next, and we're going to do this, and I'm your leader, and I deserve to be. And the reason I deserve to be your leader is because I'm all-knowing.
yeah.
And they it causes a problem. And their people they do surveys, and the people say, she doesn't listen or he doesn't listen, communication's bad, morale is down. And that comes from thinking I need to know.
Well, I think in our society today, it very much appears that it looks like it's really brave and courageous to say, I don't know.
Yes, I think it is. It's courageous if you've spent a lifetime trying to look like you know.
Yeah.
As a parent, I was trying so hard to raise these 4 children, and they were very adventurous. They wanted to.
That's a really good word, that adventurous. That leaves a whole scope of naughtiness to appear.
That's right. Yes. And I was having a real problem with one of my daughters, and she was getting in trouble at school and acting, doing these crazy things. And I had a therapist at the time. It was before there was such a thing as coaching or 3P mentoring or anything. And my therapist, she said, would you be able to spend some time with your daughter where you didn't have an agenda?
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my gosh. She said, would you be willing to experiment with that? I said, no agenda. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. I thought, all my time with her, I'm trying to correct her or teach her or guide her or tell her what I know about life that she doesn't know. And that's why she's getting into trouble. But the idea of showing up with no agenda was overwhelming to me. I thought, what do I do? And my therapist said, well, you're just with her. You just be, and you don't have an agenda, and you're not going to teach her or lecture her or do anything or correct her. You're just going to be with her. That's all you have to do. And it was hard. So at that time, because I hadn't done it, I hadn't entered the I don't know space. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how to parent. I'm not going to parent. I'm just going to be there. And that took courage. Now, when you do it time and time again, like if you're doing it with your writing, for example, and you're in the I don't know mind, you don't need to know or edit or think ahead of time or wonder what'll sound smart or creative. The more you do that, the less courageous it feels. It feels like, oh, this is wonderful. I love this. I want to get in that space. But I think people who are trying it for the first time, like I coach a leader having a problem with an employee, and I say, why don't you bring the employee in and not have an agenda for the meeting? And what? I am, I'll lose time. I'll fall behind. I'm on a rat race against time, and I can't just sit. And well, why don't you just ask a few gentle questions? What's it like working here for you? If you owned the company, what would you do differently? What's your experience? How do you think I could help you do your job better? Questions. You can ask a few questions, but no agenda. You're not trying to do anything or accomplish anything with this conversation other than allowing them to talk and tell you how they feel. And you might see something you've never seen. And so it's really hard for leaders to learn to get out of this hierarchical, militaristic, patriarchal, I'm in charge and I need to show it. I need to justify my leadership position every day by knowing.
And what occurs to me from there is actually, I hear what you say about business leaders, but actually, is that any different for parents, teachers? I learned kinesiology many years ago. And my teacher, when I look back now, was so sure she knew every answer that what you're talking about is keeping a curious mind.
Yes.
So they lose that curiosity to anything else other than that's it. But I think that's probably the same for wherever I look. The minute we lose our curiosity, and as you say, as a parent, the easiest thing is to look at our children, that they have to be a certain way. And of course, that is never about them. That's only about us. And I know I have 3 children. And my daughter was ill for a number of years. And I spent so long, every waking moment was, how can I fix her health? That again, when I fell into the space that I didn't have to solve it, I also knew wisdom would kick in when I needed it to. It did. And our relationship changed. The stress that falls out of life, to then listen to, okay, this is where we're going next.
Yes.
That has the possibility to play out everywhere, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
It doesn't always in my life, because it doesn't in any of our life, because it seems to be, our life as human beings, it has that up and down. A bit like we need light and dark. A bit like sometimes we think we can't write, and other times it's a breeze.
Yes, true. And the trick or the secret or whatever you want to call it is to be absolutely okay with that. Mm. Boy, what a bunch of bad writing today in my writing hour. I can't use any of it in the book. And to be okay with that, that's fine. Somehow divine creativity needed to get that out of the system, because the next day things started really flowing. Or, as often happens, I look back 2 weeks later and I say, well, actually, that's pretty good. That's really not as bad as I thought it was. So it's a gentler relationship with what's happening. Like, this is bad, this is good, this is wonderful, this is hopeful, this is discouraging. All that labeling is what blocks creativity, blocks inner peace. All those labels we attach, if we can back away from that habit, then we can see the gift in things. We can see possibility that we didn't see. At least that's my experience. I had read about that as a theoretical possibility many times, but it wasn't until I was willing to take it into my actual life and that I began to see that's really true.
Well, I remember Elsie Spittle talking about Sid one day losing his rag and going off on her shouting whatever. And then coming back to presence, to that calmer space. But it was like we build up, or it is so easy to build up, or I have built up, that's far more accurate. You know, if you are in your Zen space of enlightenment, you have, you know, you can sit on your mountaintop and be happy all the time. And because this was on a course, and you could almost feel the sigh of relief from everybody sitting there going, even Sid lost his marble sometimes.
Yes.
Because it's very easy to build the illusion up that actually your life's only good when you're happy, when everything looks rosy. And then, which is possibly in today's society, we talk about, you know, mental health and the mental health crisis. I hate that expression. Is because we've built up this illusion that actually we're only okay when we're up and bouncing.
Yes, that's right. So for Sid, his ability to come back to presence is what set him apart from the people gathered around him learning from him. Because most people, and again, like you said, I'm talking about me, if I lose my temper, if I would lose my temper over something and go off the rails, I wouldn't just return to benevolence and apologize and be fine. I would nurse the resentment for weeks on end. Sometimes years, I would resent a person. And so carrying those resentments like, no, that was justifiable anger. They really disrespected me. And so those hurts to the ego or to the illusionary separate self are carried forward by the separate self for a long time. Whereas people like Sid can lose their temper, but then underneath that momentary outburst is still the inner peace. That's his center point. That's where he lives from. So the returning to that is normal and natural once he's there.
And of course, we talk about the now and presence. And I do ice bathing. I have a little pod that I fill up with ice water. And I dunk myself in there every day. And
you put your head in or your whole body in?
Up to here most days. If my hair doesn't need washing, then I won't put it under. If it does, then so it depends. But I love it because actually I feel so enlivened by it. My body likes it.
So you said a little pot. I was picturing a teapot or something. You're talking about?
It's about the size of a bin.
Okay.
So the whole of me is in it. And I had a really kind of clear, we talk about presence like it's something to achieve.
Right.
But actually presence seemed to be really simple because it's only dealing with what's in front of us.
Right. It's already there.
Yeah.
It can't be achieved. What we achieve is the ignorance of presence. That's what is getting achieved. But presence itself is already there waiting for you. We don't have to go earn it or deserve it or find out how to get to it. You're there. And realizing I'm there is realizing the thought that says I'm not there is not true or relevant to the beauty of life, the gift of life, not relevant. Only a thought.
And it's so beautiful to see again, you come back to that simplicity.
Yeah. If it were more complicated, more people would get it and be interested in it.
We do seem to like very complicated things.
Tell me how. Yes. Give me 12 steps to enlightenment. Don't tell me I'm already enlightened. Give me, how do I get to presence? Give me homework. Give me 5 steps. Give me 10 books. I want to figure it out. And then I want to celebrate myself for getting there. Like, look what I did. When in truth, you were already there. You've got nothing. You don't have to celebrate any achievement. So, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have we talked long enough?
I like that. We talked long enough. It's just lovely.
Good. Well, I appreciate you inviting me. And if you're doing this work to share it with other people, that's wonderful. We used to have a saying in recovery from addiction, this new life of clean and sober, you have to give it away to keep it. That was the saying. You have to share it with others, and by sharing it, you get to keep it. But if you hoard it or make it yours or think, I want to be superior spiritually to everyone else, I don't want to share it, you don't get it, you don't have it anymore. And what you're doing is sharing what you see, and I appreciate that and acknowledge it, admire it.
Well, I mean, it's when I looked at doing podcasts originally, and my girlfriend said, "Oh, you've got to do it, you've got to do it, you've got to do it," and I didn't. And then we started this group. And then it was a case of, oh, okay, apparently now's the moment for podcasts. And that was the creative genius playing in that moment. The time that I thought I should do it wasn't right until you listen to the sign, and then it's a case of, oh, okay, I'm doing that now.
Good. I'm glad you are.
Thank you.